I'm Jacob Fairmont, and on behalf of my company, Envoy Interactive, Envoy Technology, I'm going to give a status update as far as what exactly some of the things that are going on in the private sector, what's going to change for the better, and what is kind of been stagnant for many, many years, unfortunately so, and how it's going to improve in the future. Basically, we've had a technology landscape where in lockstep, the big technology companies have more or less done the same thing. And all the technology is somehow magically or mysteriously handed to technology companies at the same time. And that leads to an innovation curve that is stagnant. Now, that is not to fault the major technology companies for saying they don't get it or they're stupid or they can't innovate if their life depended on it. It's more of why have we had an economy that where everything industrially seems to happen at the same time, whether they be exciting, new, innovative, quote unquote, events, or whether they be problems that occur that seem to slow everything and everyone down. Now, with technology, the innovation curve has been stagnant for so long. And it's really been more the introduction of more market participants to supposedly give consumers cheaper alternatives to the same technology. But in all reality, none of the major technology companies have been able to figure out even basic security for their products and services, from mobile phones to software suites to hardware technology. And then the rush for more market participants seems counterintuitive because why exactly do we need more of the same if the status quo of what is already out there in terms of software and hardware doesn't work as optimally or as ideally as it should? Well, that is when industry has a bad habit of shifting to distractions, which means instead of fixing core product lines or what exactly we're selling to consumers and what they're paying their hard-earned dollars for in terms of software and hardware, they pivot in terms of a distraction, meaning geopolitical crisis or just a bad economy or not the right president is in the White House. And then they say, because of those crises or those big, large scale problems, we need the government to fund more artificial intelligence or biological security, or we need more military investment so that the economy is secure. But what it's actually becoming is that the private sector has been unable to take care of their own consumer base and to have them be satisfied with the products that they're by some measures they're forced to buy the technology just to coexist and to thrive, quote unquote, in the economy. But instead they pivot. Well, we have an artificial intelligence problem, we have a security problem, we have a bad economy, we have a weak stock market, we have a Democrat in the White House. So we have an inclination of the major corporate brands to say, White House and Congress, save us with a spending package, then everything will be restored to normal. The Washington, D.C. infrastructure is saying we're $55 trillion in the debt hole, in the hole. So the companies need to have their own intuitive, because they're these major brilliant technology companies, right? They need to have their own savvy and intuitive solutions to fixing their own problems so that consumers can have security in their everyday use of hardware and software, and so that we have a more protected economy. So the strange answer and solution to all of it is that we're all in it together. But we can't have corporate players or companies within the Fortune 100 index that they become mooches, where they say, Washington, D.C., rescue me, or fix it so the consumers are happy. Or, another trend is when we can't innovate as an economy and as a country, or when we have a stagnation problem in terms of innovation, then the corporations love to distract the populace with more politicization, a politicized economy. The populace becomes more distracted, more caught up in news content that can be demoralizing, depressing, so that they don't use their God-given abilities to create new things. Actual private sector solutions that could have very positive ramifications for the entire country and the world at large. So that's what needs to change, is that the corporate landscape is becoming too politicized. There's starting to be too much conflict between the government class and the private sector class because neither thinks they're doing enough. And the political infrastructure, Washington, D.C., and the Pentagon, and so on and so forth, they're starting to say, look, we have what we have, and it's supposed to be domestic in nature, meaning the United States of America is the United States. Okay, we have the bald eagle. That's what we do. The other companies have gotten into multilateral agreements with China and with every other nation under the sun, and they still are clamoring for Washington, D.C. to help them out of every little thing that goes wrong, when the United States of America has an obligation to be sovereign and focused exclusively on the United States. So it's sad, but it's true, there starts to generate an anti-corporate animus within the populace because they feel like they don't do enough to help. The state of innovation and creativity and product placement in the marketplace that is of genuine value, it starts to be perceived as non-existent, or having been non-existent for many years now. And then we see the increasingly complex and negative situation in terms of Congress, the White House, and all the government institutions, feeling somewhat demoralized by a media class that was too gung-ho on discrediting government institutions and glamorizing and putting up on a pedestal the big Fortune 100s who are supposedly so brilliant. I'm focusing primarily on entertainment and technology. These big household brand names that were supposed to be very good for people and still can be and still should be, but they got very selfish and self-involved along the way, and they got out of touch with reality. So what am I working on? I'm trying to pioneer a new industry for the United States and eventually for consumers all over the world, which is interactivity, the interactive industry. Through hardware technology, operating systems, and software tools, we're going to introduce the concept of audience selection, audience participation, interactive capability, consumer choice, through hardware technology that, when easily installed and plugged into the television set, and is going to be interactive capability is going to be made possible with through a variety of different platforms. But we're taking the hardware technology angle because that's been such a lost art in terms of the technology industry for so many years. But with proprietary technology, including an Envoy remote control, an Envoy entertainment system hardware interactive console, a box that gets installed into the television set, we're going to introduce consumer choice, interactive input, so that consumers are more empowered than ever and more enthralled in the content and the programming, whether it be news content, whether it be entertainment content, whether it be animation, whether it be digital comic books, whatever it may be. We are tired of the days of old of passive traditional content that is too long in duration, that takes up too much of our time, too much screen time, And then it's like we're getting indoctrinated, yet we don't have an active role in how the stories on the screen turn out, how the content unfurls on the screen, what the alternative endings could be. So through interactive capability, audience input, interactive choice, we're going to create a new technology landscape. And it's going to be a new industry. I foresee the interactive industry being something new that globally will be worth tens and tens and tens of